Ooh, that looks tasty. Hungry Gamer is back with another game review, and today we're talking about Freelancers, a Crossroads game designed by Donald Schultz with art by Sam Mamelli and Allison Carl and published by Plaid Hat Games. And I do apologize if I mispronounce any of those names, and additionally thank you to Plaid Hat Games for sending me this copy to review. Now, before I get started, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that is where you will find the corrections. Now, if this looks a little familiar to you, it's because you either watched my video on Forgotten Waters or you have played Forgotten Waters, also from Plaid Hat Games. This is the second game in this series, though instead of being pirates, you are freelancers or kind of medieval fantasy adventurers in this world, which is kind of post-humanity, having left the world or gone extinct or whatever, and all the remaining critters have kind of evolved to self-awareness, and now they're living in kind of this medieval style world. And you see some stuff out here. There is more stuff that you're not seeing. You're not seeing the lookout board, which kind of has little trackers for tracking, well, various things that need to be tracked. You're not seeing the medic board, which is where you take your wounds. If you get to the end, you're going to lose. And so on. There's various decks of cards and all of that. But with all of this here, I can give you a rough idea of how the game works. Also, you notice this map has already been mucked about with. This is from one of the games that we played already, and you'll notice that basically you're just kind of marking where it is you're going to go. Sometimes you're adding things to the map, like I have my little cave right here, we have a boat right here, and so on, as we kind of made our way to the end. Each of the scenarios has its own individual unique map, and I'm showing you this one because this is the first one that you're going to play, and you can save your game on the back. And I guess I will also say there could be some minor spoilers in this, though I'm just going to kind of pick random locations to show you things. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played, I'm going to jump into my final thoughts, and you will go to the timestamp on the screen right now. And actually, I lied. Before I open that up and show you things, I want to talk to you about the character creation, because each player is going to get to create a character, which will be a different race, in this case the Mouser, but it could be the Hound, and so on and so on. And class, in this case the warrior, but there are others like the private eye and so on and so on. And you can see it's a whole big map there. And what you're going to get to do is you're going to name your character, you're going to get your starting equipment, which in this case is a weapon, which is the fencing blade right there, and it tells me what that does right there on there. And I would pick one of these different things with my personality, and then Mad Lib style, I would fill each of these things out. And then on the back of my class, I would go in, and with my backstory, I'd get to fill in, again, Mad Lib style, the different words that I put, which would create my backstory, and it would also create the two different endings I can get based on how many levels I get to as we go through the game. Now, the other things that are important for you to track over here are we have our camp actions over here, and every time you camp, which is a thing that you get to do when you're on the map every so often, so every time you wind up at one of these campfires here, you get to take a camp action, and you're going to get to pick one of these bonuses. You'll also notice over here where you can be hurt as you're playing through the game. You take your wounds, and a lot of time, and really the main thing about that is once you get 3 of those, you're not able to do things that would give you another wound. And the only other 2 things I'm going to point out here in particular are over here. As you go through the game, you're going to be getting titles. And they might be chaotic titles, or they might be chaotic titles, or there might be order titles, but you'll write them down as you go through, and that will kind of affect the story as you go. And additionally, you can get experience points there. And then down here, you have your ability scores. And you can go as far over as there are boxes, and as you go over further and further, it will give you more dice when you take different tests. And that'll make sense in a bit. But in general, you always roll the 20-sided die, and if you have, say, checked off this box right here, you would also get to roll the 4-sided die. If you had checked off 2 boxes, not only would you get to mark off a gold over here for that, but instead of the 4-sided die, you get to roll the 6-sided die, and so on and so on. Now, move that out of the way. The first thing that you're going to do on your game is you are going to pick your quest that you're going to be doing. And so you'll go through and you'll pick all of the characters that you have in the game, and I'm just going to kind of hit these random to make sure I got my mouser there. There we go. And then you're going to pick what the different jobs that are in the game are. As you go through and you see there's a whole bunch of them like so. There we go. And then you move into the game and you have your ability to save it right here and so on. And we'll just say recommended, etc. We'll skip through all this stuff. And then the app is going to tell you all the story and tell you what you need to do. So in this case, it's telling me to begin a round after we go through, and I'll play a little bit so you can kind of get an idea of what it sounds like. And I'll play just a little bit so you can kind of hear what it sounds like.
The world is a wide, weird place. But here in the hub, the capital city, everything is pretty normal.
And that lets you see that you have both sound and narration as you go through, and there are different voice actors that do all the different parts. But just for a quick understanding, I flipped to this random page right here. And so again, this might be a minor spoiler for you, but this is going to show you how this is going to work. And so what's going to happen is you're going to wind up playing through a round. And the way that works is every character has a standee. And each of those standees are going to allow you to choose one of these things that goes on. Now, sometimes you'll see, I'll flip to another page, there will be a red one. And if there's a red one, that means someone has to do it. Then you'll look, you'll see the blue ones are simply options, but only one person can go. While right here, the green one with the 3 people there, that means multiple people can do that same quest or that same action. And as you go through, you're not supposed to look over here at what's happening. Instead, you can kind of just look at the symbols here, which is going to give you an idea of what might happen. So right here, we know that keep your balance is going to involve an agility check. As you can see the same, and usually that also means you're going to get to check off a spot, so you're going to get to advance on that. While up here, it's going to involve a smarts check. There you have some risk going on. You might get some treasure, and you might get some good luck, good fortune. And all of them do different things. And so what's going to happen is you're going to go to your round tracker here, and you're going to start the timer. And the timer is going to count down, as you can hear, like so. And if you get to the end without finishing, there will be some kind of penalty, but everyone will get to place out their standees. Then what you have down here is you'll see there is this influence track, and the influencers are going to track that. And you're simply going to go from the first one down to the last, and that's how you're going to get to place characters out onto the board. And there are things that will happen that will allow you to increase your influence, so you would move yourself up, move everyone down, and so on like that. But once the timer starts, the influencer is going to call out who gets to go. So they would call out the mouser, and the mouser would go and say, you know, I'm going to be the one, and I'm going to do that, take care of everybody. Then next we have the goblin's going to go there. Then next we have the pixie, who's going to do some meditation, and then we're going to do that one up there, and then here, and there, and then also going to meditate as well. And then you would simply go down, and once that's done, you go down and you do just exactly what it says over here. Usually it's going to involve some kind of test. So for example, let's just say that since I made the mouser went up there. And so the mouser is going to take a will check. And so first you'll see I get to add +1 to my will, which, as we can see, would allow me to mark off a coin and gives me a 4-sided die. So then I would roll my 4-sided die and my d20, and I got a 5. Well, that's not very good, but anybody that had one of these fortune tokens could say, you know what, we're going to spend that and go ahead and roll again. And so I rolled again, and now I have a 12 and a 3, so 15. Then I would go right back to the app, and I would enter 502 right here and go, and I would get the story, and it would tell me what happens, and then so on and so on. We get down to the end, and we would enter what's down there, and we would move on. At some point, it's going to take us back to our map here, and we're going to get to move on. From wherever it is we are, we can follow the lines and go somewhere. You can go backwards all you want, but you can only activate each spot one time. And that's actually how this game works. As you play through, you're going to find out where it is on the map that you actually need to go to win. So for us, we actually had to go all the way up here, but you're going to find out where you need to go, what you need to do, and there's all these places that you're able to go, so the story will be different each time. The other thing that I should point out is there's also things like characters. And you saw earlier that you can get different items, but you can also get characters. And this matters because every time you rest, you're going to have to go to the bag here. And I shouldn't say every time you rest, every time you travel, you're going to go to the bag and you're going to draw one of these out. And these are going to get placed down on the scout track. And then every time one of these fills all the way up, you're going to move this little tick forward, which will make things in the game harder. And you'll flip it over and you'll get whatever. In this case, people will be losing some fortune. But, as I mentioned, you can get these characters. And if you get a character, not only will they give you a bonus, and each player can have up to 2 followers with them, they'll give you some kind of bonus, but they're also going to drop in one of their tokens into the bag. And when that's in the bag, that means you might draw that out instead. Or as you go through the game, you might get supplies. And supplies, as they go in the bag, if you draw those out, they just get discarded, and you're not adding token to, because these tokens can add up, and they can add up very, very quickly. Because if you draw one of these with a little plus on it, not only do you have to place it down, but then you also have to draw another one, which in my case, oh, that's terrible, I drew another with a plus, and then I drew a third, and now that's filled up. This would tick forward, we flip it over, find out what happens, and then these would wipe. And then, of course, if we get all the way around to the end, it is game over. And that's the fast and dirty of how this game works. So, what do I like about this game? First of all, a lot of what I'm going to say is going to be almost a repeat of what I said about Forgotten Waters. Though I will talk a little bit about the things that I think are improvements over Forgotten Waters, because I do think that's the key takeaway here is, if you liked Forgotten Waters, this is everything that was good there, plus some better, I think. But first of all, I love the narration, the stories, they're great. They're just a delight to listen to. And I love that there's some real variance in them, because some of them are, like, they're all funny. They're all funny, but some of them are pretty stinking dark in the best ways. And I just love that. I love the different types of characters, and I love the different jobs and races that you can kind of mix together to have your own little adventure that you're going on. I think there's a really good amount of these different jobs that you can have, that you can play, that you're really not going to be spoiled for choice as you're playing through this game. And each of them interacts so well with the story, with the website, that it's just a delight. And again, the comedy carries over so well. I will never, ever forget the time that I played the divorcee, which in itself is funny, right? Like, that was my class, divorcee. And I got my epic item, which was the shirt of getting back out there. It just... it still makes me laugh. And it's just so very clever. I love the Mad Lib style thing that you do as you create your character. Everything around the story and the narration, moving through the map, making your choices, all of that is just fantastic. Now, next I'm going to make a comment on something that I think is an improvement over Forgotten Waters. In Forgotten Waters, as you upgraded yourself, you just kind of got to add numbers to your dice roll. Well, in this game, you get to add different dice. You're rolling your D20 into D4, a D20 and a D12 as you're going up. And I love that. Rolling more dice is just so much fun. Rolling dice is fun, and this game gets it, because that is basically the only game mechanic you're doing. Is you're going to chuck some dice every now and then, along with you're going to rapidly kind of pick what you're going to do on each time you get to a page where you have to do something. And I think all of that works really well. It also has introduced, unless I'm crazy, it's also introduced this ally system where you have all these allies that you're getting, you're throwing those tokens into the bag as well, and they're going to pop out and you get more story, and there's so many allies, you never know what you're going to get. And again, what you're hearing the repeat over and over again is it's more story, more interesting, and I just think it works so well. Along with that, I like this kind of futuristic world where humans have, of course, we've killed ourselves. Maybe it's the aftermath world, I'm not quite sure, where it has just little bits of anachronism in there. Because this is very much like kind of a fantasy world, but suddenly there's a billboard that you're dealing with, and you're trying to figure out, what is this billboard? It's just so clever. Everybody, it is just so fun going through this story, and I'm beating my own foot here because that's how good it is. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm smacking myself to make the point that you can't see because it's out of frame, but so good. The story is fantastic. Now, moving past that, The core of the gameplay itself it's very fun and delightful. You're rapidly picking your different choices that you're making, and you're dealing with the choice, you're making checks, you're trying to figure out on the fly what the best way to optimize your own character is, because you do still want to get the good ending of your story, and all of that just works fantastically. The next thing I will say is it's a shorter game than Forgotten Waters. Now, that said, it is still a long game. You're not playing this in an hour and a half. You're sitting down and you're playing this for a while if you're listening to the story and all of that. If you're playing with multiple people, it's going to take a while, but each scenario is you sit down once. Whereas I found with Forgotten Waters, you're going to sit down once, play halfway through, and then you'll come back and finish it later. So they're all shorter, and I really do appreciate that. So what are my quibbles with the game? And this is where you're going to hear pretty much everything that I said with Forgotten Waters. The first thing is, there's not a ton of game here. There's not a ton of mechanics here. It's much more of an experience that you're doing together. And yes, you're choosing where you're going to go. You're choosing which dice you're going to be able to roll and how you upgrade that. And you're choosing how to use your items and stuff. But there's not a ton of game that you're digging into. This is not like with Familiar Tales, one of my other Plaid Hat favorites, where there's some like serious game mechanics with great story. This is more about the story. And you have to be okay with that. You're not going to dive into this thinking how you're going. You're not diving into this thinking, yes, I'm about to play Madara or something like that. No, you're playing an experience, enjoy, and you're making choices and you're kind of guiding your own future. And the other thing that I'll say is, this is a game that I find hard to get to the table. Not because it takes a long time to set it up or anything, because I don't want to play this game with less than 4 people. I'd love to play this game with 5 or 6. I think it goes up to 7. I can't ever remember if it's 6 or 7, but that's how I want to play this game, with all the different people making their choices around the table, laughing about it, and that's where this game shines. Truly, it is one of the greatest, I think, high player count, light games just to sit down and have some drinks or have dessert or whatever and just play for an evening. It's so delightful. But I think you need at least 4 people to really get the most out of it. And so because of that, I have had a heck of a time getting it tested enough, getting it tabled because of that. And I had the same issue with Forgotten Waters, and I still have Forgotten Waters on my shelf, and I actually I'm in the middle of a Forgotten Waters game that is been on hiatus for like 4 months because we're trying to get all 7 of us back together again so we can finish. So it's just a thing that's out there, but if you can, but every time I get it to the table, I just love it. I enjoy it. And that's even when we get our butts kicked. The last time I played, we got waxed. Like, we got, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes in, maybe an hour and 10 minutes in, something like that, and just got smashed. And we were maybe halfway where we needed to go. But we all had so much fun. I think that Freelancers is an upgrade in every single way over Forgotten Waters, with the exception that maybe you like the idea of moving the ship around the map and you like the pirate theme more than the non-human adventuring party theme. But that's it. I think they've streamlined it enough that I think it plays a little quicker. I think some of the dice mechanics are a little bit better, but to be clear, you can't go wrong with either of these, because I rank Forgotten Waters as one of the most unique games that I own, and I stand by that. But I think Freelancers is even better, and I think just the little changes that they've made really make this a truly delightful, enjoyable experience. And so if you're into story and just playing and having a good time and good laughs, and you don't mind it being a little bit dark and a little bit strange, then you cannot go wrong with Freelancers. I adore it. I think it is just a true delight, and I cannot wait to see whatever the next iteration in this Crossroads series of games is, even though I will still be playing through probably Forgotten Waters and Freelancers. They're just so much fun. So there you have it, folks. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.